Hello, welcome back to Urban X-Files. My name is Keith, and today is episode 5 of the most haunted cemeteries throughout the world. Today's cemetery takes us all the way to Boston. In fact, Salem. It is. For those of you that don't know, Salem is the place of one of the world's most famous witch trials. This is Howard Street Cemetery. Many of us seeing the word Salem just brings to mind the horrific witchcraft trials that occurred in the 1600s, and this cemetery has a strong connection with those activities. Despite the fact that it was not found until 1801, Howard Street Cemetery is also known as the Howard Street Burying Ground, and it is the third oldest cemetery in Salem. Unlike many cemeteries its age, this cemetery and its gravestones are very well preserved. This is the curse of Giles Corey. Giles Corey was an elderly man by the standards of time. He was falsely accused of being a warlock. A warlock is a male witch, and during the hysteria at Salem, he was also the only individual to die by torture. To enter any kind of plea was to automatically forfeit all property. So Corey refused to enter the plea, and he wanted his property to pass on to his sons, not the greedy men at the core of the witch trials, which is why city officials tortured him in an attempt to force a plea because they wanted his property. Very sad, but very true. Corey was initially imprisoned in the jail that bordered the edge of the cemetery. One day the sheriff took Corey from his cell, stripped him naked, and made him lay down in a pit dug near the jail, within what is now the cemetery. The sheriff took a large board and placed it over Corey's chest, and he began to add stones, one stone after another. 6 muscular men continued to increase the stone weight, and as the sheriff asked Corey what his plea was each time, however, his plea was simply more weight. Excuse me. On the off chance he did survive this awful ordeal, he would have been hanged from the gallows, but he refused to give the sheriff the satisfaction of taking land from his sons. Corey held out for 2 days, twice being given bread and water to keep him alive to make his plea. Stones were continually added until Corey's swollen tongue protruded from his mouth, and disturbed at the sight, the sheriff took the tip of his cane and forced the man's tongue back inside his mouth. Legend says that shortly before he passed, Corey had one more burst of energy which he used to place a curse upon the sheriff and the city. They piled more stones upon him until the weight finally took his life away. He never pled, and his land had fortunately went to his sons. Unfortunately, his wife was hanged a short time later. Very sad, but as far as I'm aware, his sons were left alone. Now, people ask, was this curse real? Evidence seems to suggest it was. Many of the sheriffs serving in Salem afterwards have reported awakening to a suffocating weight upon its chest. A high number of sheriffs have passed away from heart attacks or suffered heart conditions serious enough for them to resign or be made to quit work. Very sad. Now, the sheriff who was in charge of Corey's death was named Corwin. Sheriff Corwin died of a fatal heart attack at a rather young age of 30 years old. Now this was only 4 days after Corey's death. Nevertheless, there isn't the end of the Corey story and his infamous curse. His ghost is said to appear on the spot right where he perished. And not randomly, but shortly a major disaster hits the community. For example, Corey's ghost was spotted shortly before the horrific fire of 1914 that destroyed 1/3 of Salem, which oddly enough started at the location where Corey's wife and many others were hanged for witchcraft. One of the other things that are spotted is a large black dog. This mysterious phantom haunting in the Howard Street Cemetery is seen to house the home of a demonic red-eyed beast. A one-time visitor to the cemetery one evening was busy taking pictures when they noticed a massive dark creature that's shaped like a dog creeping toward her. It was weaving in and out among the headstones, and just the sight of it was terrifying enough. So quickly, more pictures were taken, managing to take 3 images of this ghostly dog before it got too close for comfort. Once it was about 30 feet away from them, the couple made a run for it. They returned only a few hours later. However, they captured some images of a man they believe is Giles Corey. So if you do visit Howard Street Cemetery, be aware you may well encounter the ghost of Giles Corey, who's still angry over his horrific torture and his subsequent death. Also, he was pretty pissed that they killed his wife. If you are in law enforcement, more importantly, especially the sheriff, you might want to avoid this area. And don't be surprised if a massive black dog ends up following you and an icy cold hand touch you on the arm or the face. Feel chilling breath upon your cheek, or happen to see an apparition rise from the ground. Screams are also commonly heard in this part of the cemetery. Take care, people. Let me know if you've experienced any hauntings in the cemetery before, and I will be able to include it in the next story. For now, take care. See you all in the next video.